Oh, hello, listeners. Welcome to the Brand Marketing Show. Kath Langman here. Today on the show, I'm going to be tackling something that's been bothering me for a while now. Actually, if I rephrase that, it's been driving me absolutely bonkers. I have literally had three brand owners that I've spoken to just in the last 2 weeks alone all share the same story. And it's so common. I mean, this has been a story that I've been hearing and seeing over and over again for my pretty much my entire career. Anywho, they've all been told by various marketing experts or coaches or whatever, and I'm totally using air quotes here, that every single EDM, every single meta ad campaign, every single other piece of, you know, promotional content needs a discount incentive. Every website needs a countdown timer or some other kind of FOMO-inducing bells and whistles on it. One of them even shared her email marketing calendar and literally every single week a different discount code. Flash sale this, 20% off that. Last chance of something or other else. And, obviously there's a lot going on here, but the part that really gets to me, some of these countdown timers, they're not even counting down to anything real. They literally, the technology just resets every time you refresh the web page. So it's manufactured urgency and fake scarcity. And it just makes me so cross that this is everywhere. Because when you aren't experienced like I am and can spot this stuff, it's so manipulative, and I really hate it. But I'm going to share some blunt advice with you today, and that is that this kind of a discount everything all the time approach is not just lazy marketing, it's actively destroying premium brands. So over the next approximately half an hour, I'm going to unpack why constant discounting is, yes, it's eroding your profits, but it's not just eroding your profits, it's also repelling your best customers and it's training shoppers to never buy from you at full price. I'm going to actually share a lot of the consumer psychology behind this that has been well researched over many, many years and just help you to really understand not just why this happens, but also what you can do about it. So I'm going to also go through what's actually working for quality focused brands right now. And spoiler alert, in case you haven't read between the lines here, it's not just another 20% off code. So let's get into it. And I want to start with the advice that really is everywhere. It's prolific, and you've probably heard a version of this. You need urgency in every campaign. Discounts drive conversions. Scarcity sells. And, I get why brands fall into this trap. There's pressure to hit numbers, short-term numbers, maybe it's like this month's targets or a big bill that you have to pay or whatever the case may be. And discounting, it's easy. It requires zero strategic thinking. You do not have to understand your customer. You don't have to articulate what problem you're solving. You don't have to craft compelling messaging about why your product matters. You just slap on a 20% off everything offer and you call it marketing. And it gives you the illusion of results because you're going to see a spike in sales during the promotion and you think, see, it worked. And when that happens, you're going to get a nice little dopamine hit in your own brain, and then that kind of wires your brain into this positive feedback loop of this is what I do well and it works, right? But did it really, really? Because let's talk about what constant discounting actually costs you. And of course, the first obvious thing to pinpoint is your profit erosion. I don't know that people actually do the maths on this though, because every discount comes directly off your margin. If you're running 20% off constantly, that's not 20% off the sale price. That's a much bigger chunk of your actual profit. So let me give you an example. Say you've got a product that sells for $100 and your cost of goods is $50. I mean, hopefully your margin's better than that, but I'm using round numbers so that it's easy to get your head around it. So that's a 50% margin, right? $50 profit per unit. Now you run a 20% off offer. You're selling for $80 and your profit just dropped from $50 to $30. Because remember, the cost of good didn't change. So that's not a 20% reduction in profit. That is a 40% reduction in profit. And if you're doing this constantly, that adds up really fast. Second is the waiting game. And here's a statistic that should terrify every brand owner running constant promotions. Research shows that 93.6% of shoppers will wait for a discount at least occasionally, and nearly one third, 1 in 3, will only buy when a discount is available. So let's think about that. You are literally training your customers to never pay at full price. Every time you send a discount email, you are teaching them, don't buy now, wait, there'll be another sale next week. You are literally conditioning your own audience to devalue your products. Third is the trust factor, and this one's pretty huge, especially if you're using those fake countdown timers. Over 60% of shoppers now test urgency by refreshing their webpage. They want to see if that timer resets. They want to know if you are lying to them. And when they catch you out, when they refresh and the countdown starts again from the beginning, that trust is immediately destroyed, instantly. I read something recently that put it absolutely perfectly. Customers forgive aggressive marketing, but they never forgive manipulation. And that fake countdown timer might get you one sale, but it costs you that customer's trust forever, and probably their friends' trust too, because you better believe that they're telling people about it. And here's the thing, this isn't just ethically questionable, it's actually becoming legally problematic as well. So Washington State in the US recently ruled against Gap Inc., the company that owns Old Navy, which they used to do some really cool ads, videos. But they ruled against them for misleading last chance sales that never actually ended, and courts found it was deceptive advertising. And the Netherlands has gone even further. They've banned misleading countdown timers altogether. If your timer doesn't count down to a genuine deadline, you are now breaking the law. So if you are using fake urgency tactics, you might not just be eroding trust, you might actually be engaging in deceptive trade practices that could get you in some hot water. So that is definitely something to think about. So we've covered the immediate costs, but I want to go a little bit deeper here because the longer term damage to your brand is actually even more significant. Harvard Business Review, which is not exactly a fringe publication, found that frequent discounts can reduce brand value by up to 33%. 33%. I mean, that's a third of your brand's value potentially gone. And here's why that happens. When your brand is constantly on sale, consumers start to believe that the discounted price is actually the true value of your product. Your full price starts to look inflated and unreasonable, like you are trying to rip them off. The discount is perceived as, not a special deal anymore. It's perceived as the real price, and your regular price is perceived as just a fiction. And over time, this perception becomes the reality for your audience. And your brand equity, all of that work you've hopefully done to build something meaningful, it just erodes away. So now let's look at, how the world's most valuable brands handle this. And I'm going to pick some big brands that you will all know: Hermes, Chanel, Rolex. They never discount, ever. And here's the wild part. When they have unsold inventory, they don't mark it down. They literally destroy it. They literally burn unsold goods rather than put them on sale. Why on earth would they do that, you might think? And it's because they understand something really fundamental. Discounting doesn't just affect that one sale, it affects the entire ecosystem around their brand. So in the case of those brands, I mean, think about the secondary market, resale. If a $9,000 handbag holds 80% of its value on resale, it's not just a purchase, it's an asset. People feel really good about buying it because they know it retains value. But if consumers know the brand, will mark things down next season, why would they buy today? And why would they pay a premium for last year's product on the second-hand market? So the resale value would collapse, the perception shifts, and the whole flywheel breaks down. Now, I'm certainly not here saying that you need to be Hermes. Most of us aren't operating in that space, and most of us who are founders of our own brands and bootstrapping our own brands certainly don't have the kind of capital required to build a brand at that level. But there are lessons here for every premium, quality focused, artisanal, or innovative brand. And I want to share a couple of cautionary tales here. First one is Coach. In the 2010s, they went all in on outlet expansion. Revenue surged in the short term, and everyone thought it was really brilliant. But then something happened. The brand became associated with discounts, it became ordinary. It took them years of repositioning to even begin climbing back toward being seen as aspirational again. Michael Kors was a similar story. Constant discounting led to what one analyst described at the time as erosion of cachet, dilution of identity, and a confused consumer base. So these brands discovered the hard way that when your products become widely accessible through constant discounting, they actually lose their signaling power. And here's the customer lifetime value impact that really matters. Customers acquired during sales have significantly lower lifetime value than customers acquired at full price. They purchase less frequently, they're less loyal, they leave the moment someone else offers a better deal. So you're not just discounting your products, you're attracting the wrong customers entirely. Now, it gets even more interesting because I want to introduce you to a framework I learned years ago that completely changed how I think about marketing to the right kind of customers or any customers. So there are four distinct buyer types, and I'm talking about the way in which different personalities kind of arrive or go through, not cognitively, subconsciously, their purchase decision making behavior. And each one makes purchasing decisions in a fundamentally different way. So the first one is what I call spontaneous buyers. These are the new seekers because these people want what's new because it's new. They're excited by innovation, by novelty, by being first to discover something. They make quick decisions based on excitement and impulse. For example, they're scrolling through their inbox or their social media news feed or whatever, and they're thinking, oh, that's cool. I've never seen that before. It's new. I want it. And so what do they respond to? Things like new arrivals, limited editions, just launched, innovation stories, and the thrill of discovery. Buyer type two are your methodical buyers. These are the researchers, and these are your people who want all the details before they commit. They need every question answered, every specification covered. They're going to be that person who, it's like the little kid who asks why a million times. They read the ingredients list, the size guide, every single review, the FAQs. They've probably got 47 browser tabs open on their computer comparing your product to 5 alternatives. And so what do these consumers respond to? They want the detailed product information, the comparison guides, the FAQs, the specifications, the ingredient breakdowns, and the educational content. And then there's the third buyer type, who are your humanistic buyers, and we can call them the aspirationals, because these buyers want what others have, or they aspire to be like others that they admire. They're really driven by social proof and by community and by belonging. And they're thinking things like, people I respect use this brand, so this is my kind of brand. This says something about who I am. And they care really deeply about brand values and what their purchase communicates about them. So what do they respond to? Things like customer stories, community, brand values, as seen on, testimonials, lifestyle imagery, and certainly the feeling of being part of something. And then there's buyer type 4, your competitive buyers or the deadline dancers. These people are motivated by winning, by getting the best deal, beating the clock, outsmarting the system. They're going to thrive on urgency, scarcity, and competition, and they want to feel like they have won something. What do they respond to? Countdown timers, limited stock warnings, flash sales, beat the price rise, and the rush of snagging a deal. Now, here's the critical insight that I want you to really sit with. When you run constant discount campaigns, with the countdown timers and the FOMO tactics, you are speaking to one buyer type, the competitive buyer, the deadline dancer. That's potentially only 25% of your audience. And here's what's actually worse though. You're not just failing to connect with the other three types, you're actively repelling them. So let me walk you through what each of these other buyer types experiences when they see constant discounting. The spontaneous buyer thinks, another sale? This brand is always on sale. There's nothing new here. This is boring. Where's the excitement? Where's the innovation? This doesn't feel special at all. They want the novelty. They want the innovation. That constant sales are the opposite of novel. They're predictable and they're stale. The methodical buyer thinks, hang on, if this product is discounted this much, this often, is it actually worth the original price? What's wrong with it? Why are they so desperate to sell it? And worse, this countdown timer feels really manipulative and I just don't trust them. Remember, these other people who are doing their research, they're going to notice if your 24-hour flash sale happens every single week and they're going to refresh that page and see the timer reset. And once you've lost their trust, it's gone. The humanistic buyer thinks this brand is just shouting at me about price. Where's the story? Where's the community? Where are the values? This brand doesn't feel like my kind of brand. This feels cheap. They want to feel proud of their purchase and they want it to say something about who they are. I got 20% off isn't a status symbol to this person. So let's add this up. If you're running constant discount campaigns, you might be connecting with your competitive buyers, great, but your spontaneous buyers, bored, your methodical buyers, suspicious, your humanistic buyers, turned off. So you are potentially alienating 25% of your audience. And here's the kicker. If you're a premium brand, an innovative brand, an quality-focused brand, an artisanal, ethically made, carefully crafted brand, your best customers, the ones who will pay full price and become genuine advocates and stick with you for years, they're predominantly in those first three categories. They are seeking novelty, information, and aspiration. They want to feel like pioneers, like they've discovered something special. They want control over their purchasing decisions, not manufactured pressure. And they're looking for authenticity, for craft, and for the story behind what you make. When you blast constant discounts and fake urgency, you're literally telling them loud and clear, this brand is not for you. Meanwhile, who are you attracting? Price-driven buyers who will never pay full price and will leave the moment someone else offers a better deal. That's not building a customer base, that's building a race to the bottom. So my question for you is this: when someone tells you to put a discount and a timer, a countdown timer in every single email or every single, piece of marketing content, ask yourself, which three buyer types am I completely ignoring here? So what actually works? I know there's probably enough doom and gloom. Let's talk about something a little bit more positive and motivational, because I can tell you from our own data, and this is real data from real campaigns, from real brands that we've worked with over many, many years, that outside of expected peak promotions like after payday or Black Friday, our best performing EDMs are value add ones without discount incentives. They have things like educational content that consistently outperforms promotional content. Not just educational, sometimes it's something entertaining, sometimes it's just super relevant to that moment in time. But what it isn't is, the incentive-driven promo content. Why? Because it speaks to multiple buyer types, not just one, and it attracts customers who actually value what you're offering. So if I want, for those of you listeners who want something a little bit tangible, let me share how to speak to all of these different buyer types without defaulting to discounts. So for your spontaneous buyers, you want to lead with what's new arrivals, new collections, new ingredients, new features, new ways to use your product. Create excitement and novelty in your campaigns and make them feel like they're discovering something. Just dropped is more powerful than 20% off. Be the first to try beats don't miss this sale. For your methodical buyers, provide the information that they're craving. These people want to learn about your product, so teach them. Do things like ingredient deep dives, create how-to guides, publish comparison content that helps them understand why your product is the right choice for them. Answer their questions before they even have to ask. You can build trust through transparency, not pressure. Show them the details, let them see the quality, let them come to their own conclusion that you're worth it. And for your humanistic buyers, you want to be telling things like customer stories, feature your community, show the people behind the brand and the people who love using your products, connect to values and causes that matter, and talk about your why. You want to make them feel like they're joining something, not just buying something. And this is where things like founder stories, behind the scenes content, and customer spotlights can really shine. And yes, for your competitive buyers, you can still speak to them. I'm just encouraging you to do it strategically and not constantly. Reserve genuine scarcity for genuine moments. So, real deadlines tied to real events like end of season, limited batch releases, genuine stock levels. And when the urgency is real, these customers will respond and they all trust you because you haven't cried wolf every week for the past 6 months. So, a few practical content ideas for your spontaneous buyers. You could try the email subject lines like, just arrived, you haven't seen this yet, or first look at our new collection, or something different for you this week. For your methodical buyers, maybe subject lines like, everything you need to know about, insert your product name here, or how to choose the right X product for your skin. Or, it could be skincare serum, for example, or the science behind why this actually works. Now, I'm just making this up. Obviously, you've got to test all of these different types of angles with your audience. For your humanistic buyers, it could be something like, meet Sarah, here's why she's switched to insert your brand name, or the story about how we make XYZ product, or our community asked, we listened. For your competitive buyers, when it's genuine, it could be only 12 left in stock, not restocking until March, or early access ends at midnight, or last day for our birthday sale. So, see how different those approaches are to 20% off everything, 24 hours only. And I want to back this up with a little bit of additional data that supports this approach. McKinsey and Co. Market researchers found that 19% of consumers are cutting back in one category specifically so that they can splurge in another. They're being careful with their money overall, but they're still treating themselves to things that matter to them. And 30% of consumers are willing to pay a premium for products from eco-friendly or ethical brands. So the opportunity here isn't racing to the bottom, it's positioning your brand as worth the splurge. When someone is tightening their belt, but they still want to treat themselves, do you want to be the discount brand they buy out of obligation or the quality brand they choose because it's their one indulgence? So what should premium brands actually focus on? The first thing has to be product quality. Invest in making something genuinely worth the price, because if your product doesn't stack up, no amount of marketing is going to save you long term. The second is brand story, the craft, the provenance, the why behind what you do, because people connect with and remember stories, not discounts. 3 is the customer experience. So things like personalization, exceptional service, making people feel really valued, and that is before, during, and after the purchase. 4 is educational content, so helping your customers to understand why your product matters, what problem does it solve, and what outcome will they experience when they use or consume it. 5 is, of course, your community, so creating a sense of belonging, so not just transactions, because people do want to feel part of something meaningful. And 6, you have to employ a variety of messaging. This is a big one. So stop speaking just to one buyer type. Create campaigns that are going to connect with all your potential customers. What do you do if you're stuck? because I know some of you listening might be thinking, oh, that all sounds fantastic, Kath, but I'm already stuck in the discount trap. My customers expect sales now. How do I get out of it? Which is a really fair question. And caveat, it's not going to happen overnight, but I will share where I would start. I also want to speak to those of you who, and I've heard this so many times over the last couple of decades, those of you who just really struggle to come up with ideas for what to talk about in your marketing and just end up resorting to a discount offer because that's the fallback. And it is hard. It's very easy to get writer's block or the marketing equivalent of writer's block with this stuff. So first, you want to audit your current approach. Look at the last 3 months of your marketing. How often are you discounting and what message is that sending? If someone only saw your emails, what would they think your brand stands for? And really be honest with yourself here. Second, you want to analyze your customer data. What is the customer lifetime value of the customers that you acquired during sales versus customers acquired at full price? How do their purchase frequencies compare with their return sales or their return rates even? How, really dive into the data because it might shock you. Discount acquired customers almost always underperform long term. Third, you want to start testing value add content. You don't have to go cold turkey on discounts, but definitely start testing. Run one campaign with no discount, just pure value. It could be educational content, edutainment content, or a customer story, or a new product feature, and then compare the results. Not just immediate sales, but engagement, click-through rates, and how these customers behave over the following days, weeks, and months. Fourth, you want to get strategic about timing. Map your promotions to genuine moments, peak retail periods, genuine end of season clearance, loyalty rewards for your best customers. Make discounts feel special again and not constant. Number 5, you definitely want to be investing in your brand story. What makes your brand worth full price? What's the outcome that your brand delivers? Why should someone choose you over the cheaper alternative? And if you can't answer these questions compellingly, that's your real problem. And discounting is just a band-aid over it. The bigger question that I would invite you to sit with today is, are you attracting customers who will pay what you are worth, or are you training them to wait for a bigger discount or a better deal? Because those are two very different businesses and they have very different outcomes. Now, if you are listening to all of this today and thinking, I'm not even sure what my brand is currently communicating, or worse, you suspect your website might be working against you, I want to tell you about something that we are offering right now. We are currently offering our premium brand website audit with an early bird offer that ends at the end of January. This is not a generic checklist. It is not an automated report run by a piece of software that spits out the same recommendations for everyone. This is actually us, our team of experts, looking at your brand through the eyes of your ideal customer. We analyze what your brand is saying about your brand value, whether you are attracting the right customers or repelling them, the gaps between what you think you're communicating and what your visitors are actually experiencing. And we give you specific actionable recommendations to strengthen your premium brand positioning and to increase your organic traffic, your sales conversions, and all of that good stuff. So if you have been doing things like relying on discounts to drive traffic and sales, and you really would like to pivot and build a brand that commands full price, then this audit will show you exactly where to start. So I will share the link to this offer in the show notes for this episode. The reason why we have an early bird offer is, number one, we want to help as many of you, well, a number of you, to get a really good jumpstart on 2026, because long experience has proven to me over and over again that the first quarter of the year can pass exceptionally quickly. And once you get to March, April, it can suddenly feel like the year is flying by and you don't have time to work on these sorts of things that really do make a difference to how the year pans out. Secondly, though, because this is us, a small team of humans doing this for clients, we literally only have the time capacity to take on 15 brands for this website audit project. End-to-end project. So if you'd like to jump on that, normally it's $997. We are doing an early bird offer for those who book by the end of January of $597. So that is why we have the limited spots and why I guess I'm demonstrating the genuine scarcity. There's no countdown timer on any of this, all of that kind of stuff. And it is very personalized. Alrighty, let's wrap this up today. Here's what I want you to remember from today. Discounting isn't a marketing strategy. It really is the absence of one. Real marketing requires you to understand what problem you're solving for customers and what outcome your customer actually wants. Why, and at the end of that, why your product is worth paying full price for. It requires you to speak to different types of buyers in ways that resonate with how they actually make decisions, and that takes thought. It takes a bit of work. But it also builds a brand that doesn't need to shout to get attention, a brand that attracts customers who value what you are offering, and a brand that can weather tougher economic times because your customers aren't just looking for the cheapest option. And that is the kind of brand, in my opinion, worth building. If this episode has resonated with you, I would love you to share it with a brand owner who needs to hear it. Maybe someone that you know is stuck in a discount trap and looking for a way out. And if you have questions or you'd like to continue this conversation, you know where to find me. I'm always happy to chat. Until next time, this is Kath Langman from Productpreneur Marketing, reminding you that the premium, innovative artisan brands don't discount their way to success. They earn it. Bye for now.